Hello, I'm Daniel. I wanted to give a talk today on a teaching called the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. This is a talk that was given by the Buddha, and the things we call mindfulness meditation or insight meditation are really based on this talk. The teachings of the Four Foundations are really present in all of Buddhism and also in what we call the mindfulness movement, where people kind of try to move away from Buddhism but still take the benefits of meditation, which is, I don't think, good or bad. But these four foundations are the root of that, as well as being the root of Buddhism. These are underlying principles of meditation and where it's taking us. We're going to talk about how we can use these principles to improve our daily lives, to deepen our mindfulness and move closer to our spiritual goals. That said, this is an introduction, and there's a lot more that could be said about this teaching. So, the basic idea behind all of this is simple. We're training to be more aware of what we do with our bodies, our feelings, our thoughts, and our environment, everything else. This gives us insight into why we do the things we do and how we can live our lives in a better way. We can learn how to recognize when our actions come from a good place or a bad place, when our actions are helpful and not helpful. We can learn to see what helps us and what gets in our way. And we're training to be present, so we're not so obsessed with the past and the future all the time. So, cultivating mindfulness of these four things is helpful to anyone. They are body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. So, the Buddha said the four foundations of our practice are being mindful, or really all come back to being mindful of these four things. So, mindfulness of body, that is recognizing the body's not a unified thing, rather a collection of parts. So, if you get a heart transplant, you're still you just have a new heart, right? And our bodies, of course, we know different parts of our body are slowly not working as well anymore. I saw a meme that said, my favorite part of childhood was my back not hurting. And I think that's, your back is wearing out, right? This helps us to see the body as it is, a form that comes and is around for a little while and then is gone. And people do all sorts of things to try to make, to try to keep their youth, to try to keep the body from falling apart. And those things have varying levels of success, right? So why does it help us to recognize that the body's temporary? It helps us to kind of lessen our attachment to our body. So we're not obsessed with our appearance, obsessed with staying young, or obsessed with filling the body's every desire. That is, my body really wants to eat another piece of cake, right? And that's not always the best choice for me, right? So it's not necessarily the best choice to fill that desire all the time. So we shouldn't be so attached to our bodies. Ultimately, our body's falling apart. And the second one is mindfulness of feelings, and sometimes this is called sensations. So we only really notice one feeling at a time. And we put labels on those feelings that are positive, negative, or neutral. And if we can learn to see each feeling or each sensation as one of many temporary feelings that are going to come and go, then we can bring some non-judgmental awareness. So we can learn to see feelings as they are instead of clinging so tightly. And I think a way I like to explain this is with our language. We tend to say, I am angry. We say, I am angry, instead of, I'm having an experience of anger, or I'm experiencing the emotion of anger. And I think our language really informs how we think about this. We really identify with a feeling when we have a strong one. We really think, that is me. I am angry. But you're not angry. You're not angry. Anger has just come into your experience. And I think if we can turn our minds and kind of think that way, then we're not going to just get lost in that feeling, because the truth is that when we have feelings like that, sometimes we think we're going to feel that way forever. We think we're going to feel that way forever. And sometimes we think, like, how dare you make me feel this feeling? How dare you make me angry? I didn't make you angry, right? I did something that caused you to have an experience of anger, but you're not anger. You're still you, right? So I think it helps to think of our feelings in that way. They come and go, just like everything else. A feeling comes and it's around for a little while, and then it goes. And next is mindfulness of mind. We tend to think of our minds as a single thing, but when we pay attention, we can come to realize that it's really just a flow of consciousness. Mind is in action. It is just a thought comes and goes. It comes and then there's another thought after thought. We don't have a mind, really. We think of it that way, though. We think of our body. Sometimes we think of our body as the car, and our mind is like the little person inside the car, and we think that one doesn't connect to the other. We also think that way. So we don't always realize that if we eat nutritious food, our mind is going to be sharper and it's going to work better, because we think of these things as separate, but they're not. And we don't have a mind. We just have various states of mind and thought processes. We don't have a thing at the center. It's just states of mind come and go too, just like the feelings. And if we can learn to pay attention and see the arising and passing of thoughts, then maybe we can learn to stop the runaway train of negative thinking. We can understand that we're not our thoughts. So I think everyone has the experience where you start thinking of something and you don't know how it came to you. You think, why am I thinking of that bad thing that happened 2 years ago, right? Or whatever. And sometimes also we all have the experience of, I start thinking about something and I can't sleep because this thing that I have no reason to be thinking about has entered my mind and I can't stop. And I want to tell you, we can learn how to have some measure of control over these processes. We just have to first cultivate an understanding that you're not your thoughts. You're not your thoughts. Thoughts just come and thoughts go. And the last one is maybe the hardest to understand. It's mindfulness of phenomena. And that is, just like our thoughts and feelings, everything around us comes and goes. Everything in the whole world comes and goes. And things are connected. Things aren't rigid and separate like we think. And how does this help us? Well, it helps us when we're really worried about how loud it is in the room we are, or how uncomfortable we are in a situation. Everything's a collection of things. And when we learn to see that things are temporary, everything's a collection of things, that can help us. So when we see these four factors as impermanent, as that they all result from different things coming together, then we can see the silence at the root. And this helps us to gain wisdom. We see that the body's impure and the body's falling apart, and maybe we can stop being so attached to it. We can see that feelings and sense pleasures especially often lead to suffering, and we can stop being so full of desire all the time and stop giving into our desires all the time. When we see that the mind is just a collection of passing thoughts, then maybe we won't cling to ourselves so much. And when we see that phenomena aren't as rigid as we think, then we won't be so obsessed with gain and loss all the time, because we're obsessed with gain and loss all the time. I want that thing now and I should have it. I deserve it, right? We think that way. So what are we doing? We're reflecting on how these things are really empty. When we reflect on our bodies, we can realize that the nature and form of our bodies are really just arising out of other things. And they're temporary. That's important. Our bodies come and go, and they change the whole time. And feelings result from our perceptions encountering objects or experiences. Without coming into contact with something else, there would be no feelings. There would be no feelings. If you're not coming into contact with something now, you're mentally thinking about how you came into contact with something earlier. Without coming into contact with something, there'd be no feelings. Your senses don't exist. Your feelings don't exist in here and out there, but rather in the connection between the two. And this is why we say feelings are empty. And when we think about our minds, we're really just thinking of labels. Words like confused or bored may come to mind, but these are just names, and they don't represent how our minds work, really. We can't say there's anything enduring because things are changing in our minds all the time. We give names to our thoughts and feelings, but those things aren't our mind. Our minds are empty. Phenomena might be a little harder to grasp, like I said, but that's because we tend to think of everything as out there. But all this reasoning applies to emptiness. It's all connected. It's all emptiness. There's nothing but silence underneath. And this just helps us to not be so attached to everything all the time, because it's our attachment and our obsession and our clinging that makes us unhappy, that makes us struggle. And the truth is that we can hold on loosely to everything. And if we can learn to do that, then we can learn to make better decisions, to be intentional rather than just going through the motions of going through life, rather than sleepwalking through life. We can see things as they are, then we can think more clearly, we can pursue our spiritual goals in a more mindful way, and so that's helpful to us. And then we can sort of learn how to cut things out of our lives that don't serve us. And in that way, we can direct ourselves more toward where we want to be in life, more toward connection with others, and connection with our deepest selves as well. So that is your introduction to the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Have a good day.